Blessed are the eyes that see what you see. For I tell you, many kings and prophets have desired to see what you see, and have not seen it. To hear what you hear, and have not heard it. I thank you, Father, for hiding these things from the learned and the wise, and revealing them to the innocent and the simple.
This weekend, Japan is recovering from not one, but two major earthquakes, both centered near the southern island of Kyushu. At least 41 people are known dead.
This is the moment the second quake struck. The terrifying roar of back-to-back earthquakes barely 24 hours apart. Today, rescuers pulled a 93-year-old woman out from the ruins of her home. She was unresponsive. Her son-in-law said he tried to warn her to get to a shelter after the first quake. I should have taken her with me, he said. I have nothing but regret. More than 1,500 people have been injured, dozens more missing. Hundreds of thousands are without electricity and water. Japan has deployed 20,000 troops to assist in the rescue efforts, but they're running out of time and hope in the search for survivors trapped beneath the rubble and the mud. The 7.3 magnitude earthquake, 30 times more powerful than the first, triggered massive landslides that swept away entire bridges and buried highways, cutting off rescue teams. Nobody knew then that Thursday's earthquake was a foreshock of the much bigger one on the way. Seismologists warn the bigger tremor could also be a foreshock. The 9.0 earthquake in 2011 that killed more than 18,000 people followed a smaller one too. It also triggered the meltdown at the Fukushima power plant. But this time, Japanese officials reported no irregularities at any of the nuclear facilities in the area. Heavy rains are in the forecast overnight in Japan, raising concerns of more landslides. Once again, Japanese residents are spending the night out in the open, too terrified to go home, rattled by both aftershocks and the fear of worse to come.
The toll is rising after a devastating earthquake centered on the coast of Ecuador. The president of Ecuador says more than 230 are dead, many more are hurt. Hundreds of buildings are destroyed. Crews are searching for survivors. Magnitude 7.8, the strongest to jolt Ecuador since 1979. More than 135 aftershocks followed.
With the daylight, residents saw for the first time the full extent of the damage. Near the epicenter in the Pacific town of Pedernales, rescuers dug through crumbled concrete only to find lifeless bodies. The quake also claimed lives about 85 miles south in the coastal city of Manta, where today shaken residents surveyed the widespread damage. This desperate worker tried digging with his bare hands to find survivors. 3 are alive and a girl is dead, he said. Last night, onlookers cheered as this teenager was pulled from a crushed hotel in the city. This appears to be the moment the quake hit. Customers in this store in Quito panicked as shockwaves knocked items off the shelves and took out the electricity Saturday night. People took refuge on the streets of the country's capital. Quito resident Remigio Oñez said he and his family escaped after the quake destroyed their house. In a minute, it all came crashing down, he said. As far as 150 miles south of the epicenter, the powerful quake caused buildings and roads in the city of Guayaquil to collapse. First responders searched for survivors after a highway overpass buckled, flattening cars. Ecuador deployed thousands of soldiers to help people like Vanessa Santos. She says her sister, sister-in-law, and nephew were killed.
It looks apocalyptic.
American Brian Bayer is a freelance journalist in Ecuador. His apartment building near Guayaquil was badly damaged when the quake hit.
Terror was my first emotion. I switched from a very casual mood to being in complete shock very quickly, within seconds.
Militants have fired mortars at residential areas in the Syrian city of Aleppo, killing at least 6 people. 4 members of one family were killed when militants fired mortars at Al-Maidan area from the Bustan al-Basha. 2 other people were killed and 5 injured when mortars hit Al-Khalidia. Similar attacks also left 2 people injured in the Al-Azmiya neighborhood. The renewed fighting in Aleppo has forced more than 30,000 people to flee to the border with Turkey over the past 2 days.
Severe storms in the southern plains today followed heavy snow in the Rockies this weekend.
Across the region, Sunday was not a day of rest. It was a day of working to clean up and shovel out. Mike Hillen is a 5th grade school teacher.
Were you surprised at how much snow you got?
Very surprised. It was a lot. This was probably, maybe 18 inches or so?
It's very, very heavy, very, very wet.
The worst of the storm now over, this was the chance to get the last of the cars out of ditches. And the storm continued its swath of destruction elsewhere, flooding the streets of Altus, Oklahoma Saturday night, and spawning a number of tornadoes like this one Saturday in Kent County, Texas. A mall in Hays, Kansas remains closed after heavy rains caused a partial collapse of the roof.
Rebels have launched a fierce attack against Syrian government forces in Latakia province and made separate advances further east in Hama. Videos posted to social media websites purported to show airstrikes on Rastan and the treatment of injured people in Rastan and Hula homes. Heavy government airstrikes in Homs province killed 4 people, and the British-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said the death toll was expected to rise, with more people seriously wounded.
Houston filled up like a bathtub with a stuck drain. A relentless foot of rain fell in Texas. Today, folks waded to higher ground. More than 1,000 homes flooded, and one man clung to the side of a truck. Big rigs struggled before 2 interstates were closed.
With water quickly rising, residents of this apartment complex in Houston had to rescue each other. Neighbors helping neighbors, deploying rafts and small fishing boats, some using whatever they could, from air mattresses to empty refrigerators.
We're just trying to rescue as many people as we can, just try to getting them from, places they can't really stay in.
Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner admitted water was rising so fast, first responders had trouble keeping up.
In some areas of the city, they've got 10 inches of water. Some areas, they've got 50. There's water all over the place. It is very difficult to even get the Red Cross workers to get to their shelters.
120,000 residents lost power. This time lapse at a Houston underpass showed the flash flooding as it was happening. Water rising several feet in less than 9 minutes.
Why are you doing that?
As one local news reporter was covering the story, a driver behind him misjudged the depth of the water and quickly found himself in danger.
Leave the car, swim.
When the elderly driver struggled, reporter Steve Campion helped pull the man to safety.
Bring it through.
Dozens of horses stranded at an equestrian center north of the city had to swim to safety.
Israel is investigating what appears to be a brazen rush-hour bus bombing. The explosion ripping through this city bus, another bus nearby, and a private car in Jerusalem just before 6 in the afternoon as people were coming home from work. Ambulances converged on the scene to treat the dozens injured in the attack. Thick, black smoke rose into the skyline, visible for miles. A sharp contrast to the bright orange flames coming from the buses. There is no doubt this is an attack, says Police Commander Yoram Halevi. You're asking whether we know the identity of the one who put the explosive charge, whether we know if someone left it or blew himself up. We have 2 very seriously wounded whose identity we don't know yet, so we won't now say something that is wrong or not accurate. Police blocked off the major road in both directions for investigators trying to figure out how the charge got there and who set it off. Late today, Hamas on Al Aqsa TV praised the attack, but didn't take credit for it. Many here say the devastation could have been far worse. Luckily, the nearby bus that caught on fire was empty.
They have been protesting and demanding for the frontier to open so they can go on to northern and western Europe. Some have even tried tearing down the barbed wire fence. More than 12,000 migrants and refugees have been stranded in Idomeni since February. In early March, Macedonia closed its border to transiting migrants, effectively closing what's called the Balkan route after entry restrictions were imposed by Slovenia, Croatia, and Serbia. A Taliban suicide car bomber has targeted an office of Afghanistan's main national security agency in Kabul. Officials say the death toll has risen to 28, while 327 others were wounded. President Ashraf Ghani has condemned the attack in the strongest possible terms. The attack occurred during the morning rush hour. Witnesses say gunfire rang out for more than 30 minutes afterward. This is the Taliban's first assault on the capital since declaring a spring offensive. New clashes threaten to derail Yemen peace talks indefinitely. Military sources say 5 soldiers loyal to President Abdrabbuh Mansour Hadi and 8 Houthi rebels died in intermittent fighting that erupted on Monday in Marib province, east of the rebel-held Yemeni capital Sana'a. There were also reports of clashes in other areas of the country despite a ceasefire that came into effect on April 11th. After fighting broke out, rebels refused to take part in UN-brokered peace talks planned for Monday in Kuwait. Both parties traded blame for the truce violations. UN's special envoy for Yemen and government representatives are still in Kuwait, but no new date has been set for peace negotiations.
Tonight, the latest apparent provocation from North Korean leader Kim Jong-un once again appears to focus on the deadliest weapons in his arsenal, nuclear warheads. A U.S. intelligence official tells CNN Kim is pursuing a dangerous path after this warning from South Korea's president.
Activity has been detected, which shows that North Korea is preparing for its 5th nuclear test.
President Park Geun-hye didn't say what activities were detected. A top analyst with the website 38 North, which has new satellite images of North Korea's Punggye-ri nuclear test site, tells CNN his organization is tracking movement there. Tonight, the latest apparent provocation from North Korean leader Kim Jong-un once again appears to focus on the deadliest weapons in his arsenal, nuclear warheads. A U.S. intelligence official tells CNN Kim is pursuing a dangerous path after this warning from South Korea's president.
Activity has been detected, which shows that North Korea is preparing for its 5th nuclear test.
President Park Geun-hye didn't say what activities were detected. A top analyst with the website 38 North, which has new satellite images of North Korea's Punggye-ri nuclear test site, tells CNN his organization is tracking movement there. For 3 months, Kim has consistently rattled his saber, testing nuclear weapons, firing a long-range rocket, test-firing missiles. He's launched a barrage of threats against the U.S., South Korea, and Japan. His media arm even sending out a video depicting Washington, D.C. being incinerated by a North Korean nuclear bomb. Why? Analysts say part of it is to counter large joint U.S.-South Korean military exercises, which have included practicing a decapitation strike designed to take out the North Korean leadership headed by Kim. Experts say Kim is signaling his own people that he's standing up to his enemies, flexing those muscles ahead of an important gathering of his party next month. But tonight, those same experts say the risk of miscalculation by the young dictator is as dangerous as ever.
This man is far too risk acceptant, and to the extent that he has a nuclear weapons capability that he believes is viable and workable against South Korea and perhaps against the United States, I think he begins to engage in riskier and riskier behavior. And there's a real threat then that that gets out of hand and we're off to a full-scale war in Northeast Asia.
This is where we fight.